a buy or sell. The Niners apparently would love to get J.C. Jackson, which
Yeah.
sounds great, but they haven't actually gone after a corner like this since Dion, as you pointed out at the beginning of the show. Buy or sell this
Right.
report?
I buy it. You know why? Because you and I know this team as well as anybody. And if you say, what are the 49ers needs? They need a number one corner. They don't need a corner. They got a corner. They need a number one corner. Cooper Kupp is in the NFC West. DeAndre Hopkins, NFC West. DK Metcalf, NFC West. 6 of your 17 games are played against those guys. You can't throw Jason Verrett and cross your fingers that he's healthy. You can't throw Dante Johnson out there and say you're competitive. You need a number one corner. They need a number one corner. J.C. Jackson is, if you're the number one guy covering the Niners, Grant, then you're the J.C. Jackson. The next corner on the list, I don't know who that would be who covers the Niners, but it's far down the line, man. I mean,
Wow.
Rajul Douglas, Joe
Right.
Hayden.
Right.
I looked at the list. It's an unimpressive list of corners. So do you want to overpay for a second or third tier guy, or do you want to pay a boatload and probably a lot of money that's earmarked for Jimmy right now? Would you want to then go get J.C. Jackson? J.C. Jackson can play zone. He can play press. He had some trouble at Maryland off the field, but he's been coached by the best defensive backfield coach in the history of the NFL in Bill Belichick, and all of his warts have been kind of smoothed over. He's still not the best down the field corner against guys who have deep, the long speed. The guys who can really run down the field, he's not necessarily perfect in that category. Everything else, though, this guy's scheme versatile, press, zone, he can do it. And I would throw him the cash, invest in that number one corner. They probably would have gotten a corner in the draft, Grant, if they didn't screw up the Solomon Thomas pick. But once they screwed up the Solomon Thomas pick, they had to go for another D lineman, and here comes Kinlaw, and so they had to kind of fill some of their needs multiple times. And in reality, one of those picks should have been a number one pick on a corner.
Yeah, usually I prefer drafting corners because when they get to free agency, they're so expensive. It'll probably be $100 million over 5 years for J.C. Jackson. He's worth it. He's got 25 picks in his career, 4 years. I mean, the Niners since 2017 are tied with the Jets for the fewest interceptions in the league, which is it shouldn't happen when you have that front seven. With this front seven, the ball's coming out quick. DB should be able to really drive quickly, and he can. So I would think this would be money well spent. If the Niners could turn their secondary from a cap management tool, which is what it's been in the last 20 years under Parag, to a real weapon, they'd win a Super Bowl. Every time they've won a Super Bowl, you actually watched the 80s. I was alive for 2 years of it, but every time they've won a Super Bowl, they've had studs in the secondary. Am I wrong on that?
No.
Every time.
81, they got there with 3 rookies.
That's right.
But they was Carlton Williamson, Eric Wright, and Ronnie Lott. These guys were awesome. It's not coincidental that the last time they won a Super Bowl, they had Dion locking down half the side of the field. Now, J.C. Jackson's not Dion. But when you look at the free agent market and the draft, there's not a for sure guy. I mean, the kid from Cincinnati, Gardner, is a for sure guy, but he's going 8th in the draft, and you have no shot at him. So you want to roll the dice on more corners and just in the draft? It doesn't seem like you're having a lot of success there. And then, or if you're going to spend money in free agency, because of the supply and the demand, there's a lot of mediocre corners that are going to get broken off big money. You don't want to be on that list. And also, here's the other thing. Most guys who get to free agency, and if you look at the list, they're 30, 31, 32. J.C. Jackson's 26.
That's right.
And the other guy for Ward for Kansas City is also 26. So I think if they're going to invest, this is the right time to invest. Also, like right now, if the Niners had a game tomorrow, they got terrific linebackers. They still got a pretty good front line, even though there's some free agents there. They've got a pretty good football team. They got nothing in the secondary.
It's the one position group they don't have an impact player. Sorry, Jimmy Ward, you're a good player, but an impact player, that's J.C. Jackson.
Yeah. I think to me it makes sense too, because they're going to need to spend some of that money that they free up on Garoppolo. So I would imagine you're either going to invest in a very expensive offensive lineman or a very expensive defensive back, and Jackson's the perfect guy because the drop between Jackson and the second and third and fourth and fifth best corner is monumental.
My dad donates $10 to the show. Thanks, Dad. Can't wait to have you back. Murphy says Grant's such a Trey fanboy. He probably thinks the Niners should be Vegas favorites with Trey right now. And maybe if Trey had started more than 2 games last year, that's the one thing I'm a little concerned about. I mean, you're just going to throw him in there. They didn't really prepare him. Like Joe Montana, the year before he became the starter, I think he started like 7 games for the 49ers in 1980. They kind of prepped him for it. Anyway.
They didn't do okay. First of all, there's I don't know how much to believe of the reports coming out of practice because it's practice reports. Oh, he's looking great. He's looking great. But I will say this: there was a pretty dramatic growth between that Arizona start and the Texans start.
No question
for Trey.
No
I
question.
mean, if he improves that much, now granted, there's a lot of time in between there.
Yeah.
But if he can consistently have that arc pointing up, I like what I see. And I have some buddies who scout in that part of the country who have been on that campus many times and really feel like they have him pegged and they think he's going to be a very, very good quarterback. But he has things he needs to work on.
Second half. I loved Russ on the second half against Houston. I loved it.
I did too. Also, people talk about Kaepernick. Kaepernick didn't love the process of NFL football. This kid is wed to the process of NFL football. He wants to watch the film. He's in his iPad. He's doing the mental reps. He's gonna work with Tom House and get those physical reps. He's gonna.
Kaepernick wasn't into mechanics. Remember that? I'm just not that into mechanics. Well, great. Wagner to the Niners. Ask Niner by Nature 88. I don't think they need him.
$5 for that question. Wow. Wagner to the Niners. Well, I'll say this. Where's Wagner going? I got to think Philly needs linebackers. The Saints have Chris Richard. The Ravens seem like a team that always has interest. Here's a team that I think he needs him. I don't think they can get him, but I think they need him. The Rams. Oh. You put Wagner on that Ram defense.
Beautiful call.
They're not very strong inside. And now you've got
Genius.
You've got another shot at another bowl. I think he's that good. And I think he's still got a lot left. I think the Rams are the team that I'm kind of crossing my fingers don't come knocking for Wagner.
Good idea.
He's going to Canton.
Do it, Rams. My brother says he's going to see my dad and raise him 20. Thank you very much, Brian. I love you.